So you feeling those pecan sandies?
I'm eating bulk peanut butter cups.
Eating bulk peanut butter cups.
Yeah, peanut butter cups from the bulk section. Because I'm trying to bulk up.
There you go. Are you trying to become like a Nikocado avocado like mukbang channel and you'll balloon to 600 pounds?
Yes. I hope all of our listeners get that reference. If you don't, there's this guy who I guess Alex knows his name. I don't, but he went from being a skinny guy to a huge fat guy in like, what, 1 or 2 years?
Yeah, doing these videos where he eats like a gigantic bowl of flamin' hot Cheetos ramen.
And he'll take the flame, like a serving for 20 people. And he'll do something like, he'll discuss something like melt Velveeta over it.
Yeah.
And then he'll shove it into his mouth with his fists.
Yeah.
And then he'll intersperse that with occasionally screaming at the camera, laughing like a maniac, or physically abusing his boyfriend.
Yeah. Which I don't know, and the point of it is we don't know how much of it is real. We don't know how much of it is fake. So it keeps you guessing, you know. It's funny, I'm reminded of another internet fat guy, Boogie. Remember Boogie?
No, I don't.
Boogie, he was this sort of, he had a character called Francis, and Francis was, Boogie was a very obese man, and his character Francis would say stuff like, I want my Mountain Dew, give me my Mountain Dew.
Oh, okay.
And he would like flip a table of magic cards if he was losing. You know, he was a petulant nerd character. But then after this character died down in popularity, Boogie started doing confessional vlogs and started just becoming a regular vlogger and revealed himself to be much weirder than the character that he had portrayed.
That's interesting.
Well, not much weirder, really, but just a person who has bad takes. In fact, he wasn't weirder or more extreme than the character. He just had, like, middle-of-the-road bad takes, and people gave him grief for it because he was YouTube famous. But it's that... and I think eventually he got lap band surgery to lose the weight, but that was like a big deal with his character, is that I'm on my weight loss journey and I've always been, you know, depressed because of my weight. And I don't know if he got lap band surgery, actually. Don't hold me to that. But he lost weight somehow.
No, he did. I was looking at his Wikipedia. He got the gastric bypass.
Yeah. See, I wish I could... I'm not heavy enough to justify that, but I would like to get that. I'd like a smaller stomach.
So was he a member of the Wizards? Is that what I...
The Wizards?
The group of virgins?
What?
That was in the documentary about QAnon. Do you remember Frederick Brennan?
Oh, yeah.
I think Frederick Brennan was either the moderator or admin of Wizard Chan.
Hot Wheels?
Right, and so Wizard Chan is for virgins over the age of 30, I think? Or maybe there's not an age limit. It's just for, like, I guess it would be like permanent virgins.
Yeah.
And he had to step down because he had sex with a prostitute. So
that's fine. Yeah. I think, you know, people, that's what I've been saying, is like everyone's talking about the sex workers. Why will no one talk about the Johns? Where are John rights? We need rights for Johns. Yeah.
I think that's like in the Constitution, like John Hancock, John Adams, all the Johns were there.
Yeah, their names weren't actually John. They just frequented sex workers so much that it stuck. Mm-hmm. That's all the guys on Pod Save America too, the Pod Johns.
that's where they go for sex as a pod.
Yes, they go to the I will get in the pod. I will eat the bugs. As long as they're fed to me sensually.
I will visit the robot prostitute.
Yeah. We just have, in the future, we have the government sex workers, but the catch is they all look like Amy Therese.
And they're all robots.
Basically. And they're all robots, yeah. the Amy Therez's dad got the contract for the government robot sex workers.
I don't go after people's parents. It's not fair game. Otherwise, I would be toast as the son of academics.
That's not that embarrassing. What's the most embarrassing? I guess it's embarrassing to be the son of a billionaire. It's hard to get that out of you. Did you see the Getty wedding? A Getty wedding, I suppose. A Getty, i.e., as the heir to Getty Oil, L.A. royalty. They had a wedding, and Nancy Pelosi presided, and Earth, Wind, and Fire was there, and it was just people were very, very opulent and decadent, and very much the upper class. Dancing on the graves of all the dead workers. That's what they were doing there. And
what workers? LA has. I thought LA was just like Hollywood, baby. What do you mean workers?
There's no films are not work. That's why the IATSE strike is bullshit. They're playing all day.
It's Hollywood, baby.
This is Hollywood, baby. There are no unions. It's Hollywood. You're making dreams. You wouldn't have a dream. You wouldn't have a union in a dream, would you?
You wouldn't dream of a union.
Whoa, I don't know what your dreams are like, buddy. You dress in drab all the time. You'd have no glitz. You have no glamour. You have no razzle-dazzle. You're never going to make it in this town if you're a union boy spouting all that commie bullshit. Well, that's what it was for a long time. You got blacklisted, right?
I don't know. I don't keep anything in the old brain these days. I try to do before the podcast starts is come up with words that we can use to talk about.
Yeah.
And it's very hard. I came up with 7 or 8 words before the show.
All right, run them down. Run down these words.
So the first thing was a concept of a word rather than a word that already exists, and it would be
sure.
What do you think if the French could have named COVID, what would they have named it if they had been, if COVID had started in France, what would the French have named it? Because it probably would have been something really stupid.
It would have been called something like Tic Tac 3000, but it's not 3000. They're saying 3000 in English. Tic Tac 3000. Yes, very cool. Yes, no disease.
Because they always whenever they make a word, they have to make a new word. The French always make it as impossible to pronounce as possible. So
yeah. Well, I always like how in French, they won't literally translate a lot of stuff. So when a lot of English properties come to French-speaking countries, it's not. They don't call it Le Ranger de Power. Mm-hmm. They call it Le Power Rangers. They just say the English thing in a French accent, which is funny. So you have a guy talking in rollicking French speech, and it's like, le supporter, le grandissement de Power Rangers, qu'on les remettent dans quelqu'un de remettre des Pink Ranger. And I guess I'm doing more of a Quebecois.
Well, one thing that they do with were we talking about the movie titles or just the dialogue?
Usually it's the titles. It's the proper names of things.
Okay, but when they actually translate the movie titles, though, sometimes a funny thing that happens is so they'll be the movie Power Ranger, and they'll the French movie title version will be something completely different. It'll be Broken Flowers.
Yeah. Broken Flowers is a Jim Jarmusch movie.
Right. The French,
there you go.
They name everything that movie.
It was Power Rangers. Yeah, they're all Jim Jarmusch movies. Oui, Jim Jarmusch, l'auteur.
Yeah, that's what it is. So speaking of LA and that big party, that Getty wedding, you think Britney Spears going to be able to show up to that now that she's been all freed?
Britney is free. The conservatorship has ended. It's crazy how you can just basically own a person. I mean, it's not really owning them, but it's getting a legal mandate to direct all their actions and control them physically, which is basically like owning somebody.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of stuff is supposed to be reserved for elderly people who have dementia and who are getting lost all the time.
Yeah, and Britney Spears had like that type of mental breakdown is normal. Every person I know has gone through something like that. Any cool person has, shaved their head and, freaked out a little. And she was doing that under the scrutiny of the most people ever. It's a cliche to say now, but the Leave Britney Alone guy was correct. We were all too quick to sort of condemn this young ingenue.
We were correct to make fun of him as well, though.
Yes, we were, because he was a homosexual, and he was being very homosexual.
Your words, not mine. That was not
That
was not why I would choose to make fun of him, but I would choose to make fun of him.
No, because gay people are funny.
Okay.
They're funny when they do gay things, and they're funny when they're passionate about stuff that we don't care about, like wainscoting, or mermaid cuts on dresses.
Oh God, I don't. That one sounds creepy.
Mermaid, that's a very nice dress pattern.
Oh, it's not a thing you do to your dick?
Or décolletage. Well, straight men like décolletage. They just don't know they like décolletage.
Because it's a French word?
Yes.
What do you think the French word would be for, what is that, boobage? Is that the word for boobage?
Yeah, that's basically the word for boobage is décolletage.
See what I mean? My point is proven. You have a perfectly
décolletage majeur.
You have a perfectly good word like boobage. And the French have to come up with décolletage, 4-syllable word.
Well, it's more about the clothing. It's not focused on the breasts themselves. I wonder if Beavis and Butthead translates into French. I wonder if there's a French version of Beavis and Butthead going Bivi tête de what's end?
Your butt is your cul.
De rire?
Cul.
Your cul.
Yeah, that's like
tête
ass.
de cul.
So it would be ass head, because that would, or butt. That's what they would say, cul. Yeah, that's what it is.
It would be Bivi et tête de cul.
Yeah.
And they're going ho, 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 and they're laughing at French music videos, and they're making inane comments. Because that happens a lot. Like The Office had like French equivalents and German equivalents. Like there were Quebecois versions of The Office. So there must be, and it's also really funny when shows get translated into countries that they just won't work in. Like when The Simpsons got translated into Arabic, and they were called the Shamshoons. And Homer didn't drink beer; he would only drink alcohol. He'd only drink juice. He didn't drink alcohol. He'd only drink juice.
Well, that kind of works, because you can get addicted to a sugary juice drink. Just ask that guy from Tribe Called Quest. That guy died from being addicted to juice.
Really? Wait,
You're
what?
Trying to remember his
Fife
name.
Dog? Was it Fife Dog?
I think so.
He died from being addicted to juice. He loved juice too much.
Yep. You haven't seen you should watch the Tribe Called Quest documentary, because it reveals Q-Tip to be an asshole.
How much of an asshole? Why is he
a pretty
an
big
asshole?
one. Like that guy, I think it's Fife Dog. He had diabetes from too much juice, and he could barely stand, and so they held a concert to raise money for his diabetes treatment, and Q-Tip kind of forced him to do his verses on stage, and he was not physically capable of doing his verses, and it was kind of a shit show. So yeah,
it's like what they do with Britney Spears. Somebody ends up controlling you, Somebody ends up taking charge.
It's a little different.
Unscrupulous.
But
no, it's exactly the same.
Okay.
Q-Tip had conservatorship over Fife Dog.
Okay.
Britney Spears. The thing about Britney is, do you think you would be compelled to ever do that to somebody? Like when Zoe grows up and she's she's getting out of hand. Do you think you'll ever want conservatorship over her?
No.
There you go. What do you think motivates? What do you think is in the mind of Jamie Spears What do you think
Money.
drives somebody to do that? It's
All
just
the money.
exclusively money,
Yeah.
such that they're willing to exploit their daughter?
Well, yeah, but then like it becomes probably for him it becomes like a thing like he's protecting the entire family because she's worth so much money that it's enough for the Spears family dynasty to continue for hundreds of years. So,
Do you think that's his mindset?
Yeah.
You think that's what he's doing?
I think he's like, for the greater good of the Spears family, I'm going to place Britney Spears in our angel who has given us all this money into a protective environment so that I can protect the family. That's probably the insane rationalization he has.
Deluding yourself, sacrificing your daughter. Well, I think like a lot of people do have the mindset where if I made you so I can basically do what I want with you. I think a lot of parents do actually think that, which is crazy. Imagine like feeling that in the core of your very being.
I think he probably has mental problems. He's probably addicted to something, and he'll probably kill himself. Probably. So probably.
I mean, I guess it's different, but in the olden days, people did used to have the mindset of your child is another source of labor for the family. Like that was sort of normalized. Society didn't require a period of childhood. Wasn't it like during the Romantic era that the idea of a childhood first became a thing? Like the idea of you need a period in your life when you're not. Forced to do labor, where you get to learn and you get to play. That idea sort of took hold very recently.
So when you say romantic era, are you talking about like 1800s?
Yeah, I think I'm talking about the time of 1800s. It would be a bad.
Okay, like a Beethoven at a time, or
Okay. Yeah, sure. Beethoven or Keats or Shelley, those people.
Yeah, I think that's right. I think I remember reading in the Middle Ages, you weren't like once you were like 5, once you're not a baby anymore, then you're basically just like another person.
Yeah. But I guess, once you become an adult too, that's sort of the idea that your parents own you. Even in those people, they would be disgusted at the idea that, well, maybe not. I don't know.
Because they were all serfs. Everyone was a serf. Everyone was owned until they died.
Yeah. So I guess it would be normal to a medieval serf.
I see you're holding drumsticks in your hand. Is that for widening your urethra?
It's for sounding, so I can, and the splinters in my urethra that I get from them, heal over and become stronger. People say you shouldn't sound with wood, but I tell you, it's the only way you can get that warm feeling.
Here's an idea for you. I'm going to start my own cryptocurrency called Critical Race Coin.
Okay, there you go.
And the way you make it is by doing critical race theory. And every time you do critical race theory, you get one critical race coin.
This is to target. Are you saying this because there's like an overlap between critical race theory skeptics and crypto users?
Yeah, that's just
so to get them on board with CRT. you're making. I don't know. There's got to be. I had a joke that I deleted where because it was bad, but it's like, yeah, we just need to change critical race theory to patriotism facts, and then everyone will love it.
Yeah, critical race currency Bitcoin.
Yeah.
And then it's like, two things I like at the end.
Yeah. Get Elon Musk. Papa Elon, invest in critical race coin.
Elon Musk tweeted today, like, to Bernie Sanders, like, oh, you're still alive?
Yeah, that was... okay, so, like, I got on board with Bernie. I was very... I give him a lot of leeway. I don't think he's perfect or anything. And, I lost a little hope after the last primary. But as soon as Elon Musk, this fucking pencil-neck nerdlinger, comes for old Daddy Bernie, I'm like, don't you dare talk to him! Don't you dare do it! He's so much better than you in every way! I'm so mad online!
Did you send Elon Musk...
Oh my god, I'll fucking choke, you bitch!
This is your angry DM to Elon?
Yeah.
Yeah, I sent him a message too. I was like, "Hey, man, I think what you're doing is real cool. Can I have some money?" That's what I said. I was so angry.
Yeah. It only makes me angry with just like the flagrancy of him being, because the tweet that he was responding to, Bernie said, or it wasn't Bernie, whatever staffer wrote the tweet is like, we shouldn't. It's still crazy that we aren't taxing the ultra rich or something to that effect. And Elon Musk said, "Are you still alive? Mm-hmm. I keep forgetting you're alive." And it's like, I know the point is to make me angry, and it's working, because I'm a stupid bitch.
Oh, he's going to get what's coming to him.
You think so?
Yeah.
How so?
He's just going to get... I think it's going to be a situation where his son ruins his life. Because his son...
What evidence do you have?
His son is going to hate him, because Grimes obviously hates him, because everyone hates him, and so everyone in his entire family is going to hate him. I bet his other children hate him. I bet he's the reason he says these kinds of things online is because he's miserable in the rest of his life.
He's just doing it for attention.
He's just like the rest of us. That's why everyone is lashing out online, because they just unhappy in their life.
I think if I could speculate about his psychology a little, I do think the love of thousands and thousands of weird nerds probably does in some way supplant the traditional need for the warmth of family. I don't know why someone like Elon Musk would start a family. He has a lot of kids. He's been married 3 times.
That's like the dark side of the Force version of love.
Or maybe it's like a BTK thing where they like having a family is part of the act. Or it's like a Glenn Ross thing where it's like, you got to be married. It shows you're not insane. It shows you can, hold something down.
Well, Glenn Ross is kind of about falling down the hierarchy and the class structure and the fear of that. And the family is like a bulwark against going down a rung back into lower class, as what's his face, the older actor, Lemon, Don Lemon,
Jack Lemon.
Jack Lemon.
It was Don Lemon. It was Don Lemon and Glenn Ross.
That'd be pretty good. They should remake it with Don Lemon.
They should remake it with all your CNN heroes. Anderson Cooper giving the coffee for closers speech. He would nail it.
Yeah.
He's killed more men than Alec Baldwin.
Always be cocksucking. ABC. Yes.
He doesn't suck cock.
You don't think?
Anderson Cooper doesn't suck cock.
He's only a top and only receives.
He's only top, only receives. Selfish lover. Calling it now.
Wow. Well, hey, Anderson Cooper, come on the show. Rebut our huge slander against you.
Let's talk about your sex life that you are so public about, Anderson Cooper. Who are you banging? Do you think Anderson Cooper and Glenn Greenwald have ever done like cum swapping?
Were they ever dating?
No, but you think like over the same Brazilian boy, like Anderson Cooper came in his ass and then Greenwald felched it out and then, kissed Anderson Cooper and they were like swapping it back and forth for a while.
Well, I don't know. There's a lot of people in the world, I know everyone says it's a small world, but it's not.
It's pretty big world.
It's pretty big, man.
But like how many big gay newsmen are there? Do you think I'm a big gay newsman?
A big lot.
Don Lemon's gay, right?
Don Lemon?
Yeah, isn't he gay?
Gosh, I don't know, man. I don't keep track.
You don't keep track of the gays?
No, that's your job. I explained the roles when we started this show.
Okay. I'm on Gay Watch. Yeah. Gay Watch would be great. You just have like people go in slow motion to the camera, their packages flopping up and down.
I have an interesting
big floppy packages.
I have an interesting couple of movies I watched. this week. I watched 21 Jump Street,
the first 21 Jump Street,
starring Channing Tatum and Jonah Hill. And then I watched Talladega Nights, starring
also a classic,
Will Ferrell and the other people that were also
John C. Reilly,
and then like everyone else is in common in between those two movies. Like between the two leads, so like those two movies share all the other actors, but the directors are different. The directors of 21 Jump Street is it Phil Lord and Christopher Miller? Is that, or I have the name?
Yeah, the Lego Movie guys, the Clone High guys. Also, funnily enough, the guys that have one of them has bad opinions about Cuba and gets owned online about them.
That's funny, but they're actually pretty good. I would say.
Yeah. Oh no, they're great writers.
I would say Talladega Nights was pretty bad.
It doesn't hold up in your estimation?
No. All the French jokes. Like, that's why I'm like making lame ass French jokes at the beginning of the show, because Sacha Baron Cohen plays a French race car driver, and it's just Will Ferrell yelling 2000s era French jokes like in a PG-13 way.
That's funny to me.
Oof. Oh, I don't know. 21 Jump Street was funnier because there's a lot more dick jokes.
Yes,
which you wouldn't expect. You would expect Talladega Nights to have more dick jokes, but I guess 21 Jump Street was R and Talladega Nights was PG-13.
Yeah. What are the dick jokes in 21 Jump Street? I don't remember. I remember the sequel more than I remember the first one.
Like, every fucking joke is a dick joke. Like, they're hiding at some point in a car, and Channing Tatum says to Jonah Hill, "Pretend like you're sucking my dick." And Jonah Hill says, "No, why can't you pretend like you're sucking my dick?" And then they have an argument about that for 5 minutes.
That is pretty funny. Yeah. I remember the scene where they've ingested the drugs and they're putting fingers down each other's throat trying to expel it. That's pretty funny.
That was a very good bit. Had me cackling. 22 Jump Street, also funny. So it's more of a recommendation for those director guys, the anti-Cuban director guys.
Well, only one of them. He's not anti-Cuban. He's just, Castro. He's a bad man.
They're all dead. That's old news. Now we have. I don't even remember the name of the new guy. The new guy seems great. The new Cuban guy, he's great. Big fan.
I don't know who's in charge. I'm a dumbass. I don't know anything.
I'm a big fan.
I don't know. Except I know that Rittenhouse is getting off. Bing! That's the news of the week.
Wait,
did he? The
Kyle is it Monday? Is that coming out on Monday? When's that show coming out?
I don't know. The Rittenhouse show?
Yeah.
Rittenhouse MD?
That's what it's being treated like, a reality show online.
Well, yeah. I mean, we treat everyone.
Did you see what happened in the courthouse? Whoa, dude. Yeah. I did not expect it to go that way. What a twist.
That was with the Derek Chauvin trial. I mean, the Rittenhouse trial is a real dog and pony show, though, so I get why people are sort of going apeshit over it. The judge is very incompetent.
The judge's ringtone is the Trump theme song.
Yeah.
Did you see that?
The prosecution seems to be incompetent as well, or at least at this point intentionally going for a mistrial.
Well, the prosecution is actually Channing Tatum and Jonah Hill doing research for 23 Jump Street, where they become undercover lawyers. So that's probably why it's fucked up so bad.
Yeah, the prosthetics aren't very good.
No,
it's been them the whole goddamn time. And I don't fucking know. You saw Kyle Rittenhouse take the stand, and he was unconvincingly blubbering.
Yeah, he looked like he was squirting himself in the eye with lemon. Mm-hmm. He's like, it was so weird. His motions were so unorganic. It's kind of the reaction you might have if you get lemon in your eye. You just like scrunch your face up, and your eyes tighten, and you frown, and you're like, meh.
You're pocket watching. You're watching his pockets for lemons. That's what you're watching. This distinct outline of a lemon in his pocket.
I think that's what he used, man.
It's the Lemon Song by Led Zeppelin, which was about testes and pilfered from black artists.
Oh man, did you read that long Washington Post article about Eric Clapton?
No, there was a long. What was it about?
It's about how Eric Clapton and Van Morrison have been doing anti-lockdown songs.
Yes, that's very funny.
And it's making both the Washington Post and the New York Times start writing articles like, should we stop listening to classic rock?
I like the idea. I think there is something to the idea that classic rock actually does make you dumber.
Well, Eric Clapton it's a huge hit piece on Eric Clapton. It's got quotes.
He's not a great guy. It's not hard to do a hit piece on Eric Clapton.
Well, he hasn't done a huge amount of things wrong. He's done the same amount of things wrong that David Bowie did, basically.
No, well, he also, but the difference is that he did his rant against black people in the 70s. And was openly supportive of Enoch Powell.
But when did David Bowie do his whatever Nazi thing he did?
He eventually apologized for that and says, "I was absolutely off my head."
Yeah, same thing. Eric Clapton was like, "I was completely wasted." He was like, "I'm so sorry, I was completely drunk." And
getting very drunk and becoming very racist.
They both did that. They both, I don't know.
Do you think David Bowie would have been anti-vax? That would have been pretty funny.
Maybe, yeah. I think he might have been anti-lockdown. I think, and if that had happened, that would have been pretty interesting.
Destroying venues, yeah.
But they of course bring up the racist rant, but they also bring up like quotes from other musicians who have been like, "Oh, I never liked him. I think he sucks at music," and it's like, whoa.
Well, it's the thing where. Oh, he has bad opinions, so his music must be bad. I mean, Eric Clapton's music is bad, but not because he has bad opinions.
Eric Clapton's music being bad is a funny thing because it's not believed by so many people. So many people believe the exact opposite.
People still really believe that he is God. They listen to, they have a holy experience with Crossroads every time they hear it.
Well, I don't know if you're saying that word on purpose, but that was the graffiti that would appear in England in the 60s. That Clapton is God, which is so weird because he's not a virtuoso. No,
but I think what Clapton does in his music is more than, to be a stellar technician, he makes a style of music accessible to a certain type of person, which is, he watered down the blues. And some people can only take watered down blues, which is the market. I'm not saying it's good, but I'm just saying that's why he's popular and why some people resonate with it so hard. Because it's through the filter of their experience. And, that's, you have a lot of white Englanders. It'd be interesting to find like black Eric Clapton fans. I don't know.
That's what the article starts with. Basically, a guy who is a black guy, guitar player, who has been his friend for like 30 years, and was going to open for him, and basically he has to cut Clapton off. And what the article goes through is how all of his friends have started cutting him off, and now he's becoming like very isolated, and he only talks to Van Morrison. But so it also mentions, which you may not be aware, in like I think it was 1999. Yeah, Clapton said some like pretty crazy stuff about slavery and how he envisioned blues and slavery. And he was like, I know it's bad and all, but when I heard it growing up, I just envisioned, an idyllic fields where you're picking cotton and surrounded by blues music, and I could think of no place I would rather be. He said
it's like how slavery is depicted in Mel Gibson's The Patriot.
Yeah.
Or it's like the Cumberbatch plantation in 12 Years a Slave? That didn't look too bad to me. Wouldn't want to be at a Fassbender plantation. But the Cumberbatch plantation, not so bad. Learn a little Bible, get a little exercise, and he was doing it exactly in that voice. That's how Eric Clapton talks.
Yeah, he said, quote unquote, "For me, it sounded like paradise. I couldn't think of anything I'd rather be doing than picking cotton and hearing that music all around me."
Jeez. Jesus Christ.
1999 interview. So, and then,
oh my God.
In the most recent protest song with Van Morrison, he compares lockdown to slavery.
Right, yeah. But he just said slavery was idyllic. So which is it?
Well,
which is it, Eric?
1999. He said, "Do you want to wear these chains until you're lying in the grave?" And so, the black guitar player is named Robert Cray, who I hadn't heard of, but he was going to open for Clapton, and he heard these lyrics, and he immediately called him after this song came out, and was like, "Are you really comparing lockdown for coronavirus to slavery?" And his reaction was that he was, quote unquote, referring to slaves from, England from way back.
Like what the Vikings had, or what the Vikings took us. We can relate. That's amazing. That's like when Jews try and say we were slaves too.
Lockdown was like being a slave for a king of England in the 11th century. That's what lockdown's like.
That was exactly what it was like. Well, there is a set of cantankerous old men that don't want to believe certain things, or have mistrusted. Why do you think motivates Eric Clapton to be this way? Do you think he's just dumb?
I think he is.
Is there an anti-authoritarian streak in his music?
I think it's ultimately just who he is. I think I think this article could be summed up as like, old man is conservative. Basically.
Yeah. Well, I think there's always been sort of a reactionary element in hippiedom. I mean, Eric Clapton wasn't really a good hippie. He was never really hippie. He was always more of a dirtbag. But I guess most hippies were dirtbags. But we were talking before the show about, like, Seventh-day Adventist and Vancouver Islanders and that weird crossover of health food people who are also very conservative because their mistrust for pharma companies and the government extends to even reasonable stuff. Because it reminds me of that old George Carlin routine where he's talking about rules, and he's talking about, oh, no running with scissors. Good rule, Dad. This big mother will go right through me. But singing at the table, I don't understand that rule. I'm singing at your table, and I don't care. But it's the same thing. It's the type of people that mistrust all authority such that they will run with the scissors simply because the authority deems it to be unhealthy, even though they have no way to independently assess whether to trust the authority or not, because they have decided that every authority that comes from X point is to be mistrusted, and that is built into some versions of the hippie ethos.
That's interesting, because they've just decided they want to require breathalyzers starting in 2026 in every single new car. Yeah. Which is like a rule.
That's bullshit!
You can't argue with it, though. Right?
We will look back. Well, you could argue with it. You could say that it punishes those who drive responsibly, or you could. What if
but all you have to do is breathe in and out.
Yes, but it causes additional insurance liability costs. No,
you get less. You have to pay less insurance.
Right, because you have the breathalyzer.
So let me tell you what the people who are against it, or I like to call them the drunk faction, has come up with. The drunk faction has said, imagine a domestic abuse scenario. And
okay.
And the drunk abuser runs ahead of you to your car and quickly breathes in the tube and then says, "Ha ha, you cannot get away, you are trapped."
Yeah.
What if that happens?
Well, sure.
What if that happens? Not so safe are you now?
Well, why wouldn't you have gone for, like, the much more plausible thing of, like, what if you're in an abuse situation and you're both drunk, but he's beating you, and because you're just, like, blow a little over the legal limit, you can't escape this person, and that seems like that would be more plausible.
Yeah, but what if you're in a life, or it could be any dangerous scenario where it's like all you have to do is like back your car up because a tree's about to fall, but the tree falls on you in the car because you're too busy fiddling with the breath. You're just like, oh man, this tree's gonna fall.
I mean, it seems to me there would be just, like, this wouldn't go through because there would be a lot of opposition from the car companies. I imagine the cost of installing a breathalyzer in every vehicle would be significant enough that they would want to fight it politically.
I hope so. I don't know. I guess I hope so. I guess I kind of want it to be a thing too, though. Drunk driving's bad.
Drunk driving is bad, but those limits are too low. Everybody drunk drives.
I think you should have to be given a blood test before you can even buy a car. And if if you have any diseases or anything wrong,
yeah, can't have a car.
Can't have a car.
Well, you joke, but actually that's like the real solution is just destroying cars and having only public transportation.
Impossible. In a country of this size, impossible.
No, you just got a lot more buses that go everywhere.
How am I supposed to get from point A to point B on a bus? Answer me that. Buses don't go from point A to point B. They go from like different places, and there's stops.
They go on a loop. And they only go from point A to point A.
They go, yeah, exactly. And maybe point B is not even on their loop. What if point B is not on the bus loop?
There you go. You're out of the bus loop.
What if I'm in an abusive situation and the bus is late?
Be anti-public transportation because of domestic abuse. Yeah. I love that's such a great move. Like when you criticize somebody's comfort and then they resort to I'm neurodivergent and a minor, so I actually need these things. You know, or like they say, like, maybe you should stop ordering off of Amazon so much. I'm literally disabled, and Amazon are the only people that deliver in my area, and I can't... Well, that's kind of true. But that has more to do with the monopolization. I don't care where I'm going with this. But people will... Any sort of comfort, and people will make up anything in order to say that you're... my enjoyment of this incredibly luxurious or decadent thing is somehow necessary to my survival, is integral to my survival as a human being.
It goes so far as to like, okay, we need to do meat substitutes. Yeah. And it's like, well, what if you're in an abusive situation and your abuser only eats meat? Won't feel so safe substituting meat, will you now, liberal?
Yeah. Well, what the other thing about buying off of Amazon is that didn't pretty much like every major company offer online delivery?
What do you mean?
I don't know. It doesn't matter.
You want to talk about that? Let's dig into it. Let's dig into the numbers.
Let's get really hard into these logistics. It's logistics podcast.
Let's see. Type how many online? Type. Online companies offer what is it? Shipping, delivery.
I see that argument. I actually buy the argument that sometimes for a lot of disabled people, Amazon is the only option, but people will extrapolate that to say, I need to have my I can only get the PS5 in 6 months as opposed to now I am disabled and I need the PS5 now because I am neurodivergent, and if I don't get it now I won't be able to stim effectively.
PS5s are in such short supply, it's crazy. Mm-hmm. That's like,
I mean, that really is a tragedy.
There aren't any games
for
it. That's not that big of a tragedy. There's no games for it. There's really only one game worth getting it for, and it's the Cyberpunk game. Yeah, because the Cyberpunk game won't run on the PS4. So,
Elden Ring is going to be a system seller. That's for sure.
Yeah, is that exclusive to PS5?
I don't know if it's exclusive to PS5, but I think it's PS5 and Xbox maybe.
But what I meant was like no PS4. Nope, it's going to be on PS4. Sweet.
Oh, okay. Then what do you need a PS5 for now? What are they? I guess whenever the new God of War comes out.
There's a few that are not on PS4 that are just for PS5. I can't remember.
Mm-hmm.
But cool. I'll be able to play Elden Ring for 15 minutes and never again.
What if you were in a domestic abuse situation and the only domestic abuse safety kits that you could get were off of Amazon?
What if you were in a domestic abuse situation because your abuser was losing too many times at Dark Souls games?
Yes. I wonder if that's how many times Dark Souls has been cited in divorces.
Yeah. Well, we could just make it video games in general, but that would be very interesting. Because
how many specifically video games have destroyed marriages?
Because I was going on like the parenting subreddits or the stay-at-home parent subreddits, and it's a lot of complaints, and it's a lot of women making complaints like, my husband gets home from work and plays video games until he goes to bed.
Oh my God, it's the Lana song. It's the Lana song, Video Games.
Lana Del Rey?
Yeah, you know that song. Video Games.
You gotta sing her a little fatter if you're gonna do
Lana Del Rey, Video Games.
There you go, yeah.
Sucking out the dick now, eating all the dicks now, video games.
Yeah, you're close. You sound about 10 pounds too light, but you're almost there.
Video games. That's exactly what Lana sounds like.
Yeah.
She's gay icon, Lana Del Rey. Talk about video games. Yeah, I mean, I get that a lot. I think the need for escapism, that luxury alone is so ingrained into people now that they do need these video games as part of their lifestyle. It becomes ingrained in them, or they think they do at least, because I think we're called House of Decline, and we say everything is getting worse, but I guess it's not that everything is getting worse, it's that everything feels like it's getting worse. Because there's a lot more things telling us that things are getting worse. Even though we really don't know how things are getting. I mean, we can guess because of climate change. Like, that's the biggest indicator that things are getting worse in any sort of objective sense of that word. But, we were talking about taking stock and comparing ourselves to medieval peasants before. Comparing ourselves. But maybe, even though we have more, because we are attuned to these lifestyles, maybe stuff is worse. Because we have more and because there are more options available to us, we have more vistas to see where we could go down. And when we don't go down, we fall into disunity with the self.
Well, things aren't going
to
get worse for much longer now that we have a new university on the horizon. Of course, I'm talking about the University of Austin at Texas.
Woo! University of Austin at Texas? Really? That's what the full name of it?
The full name of it is the University of Austin at Texas.
That makes no sense. Because Austin is a city within Texas. You can't be at it. It would usually be the University of Texas at Austin would make sense, but there's already a university
at Austin in Texas.
It's the University at Austin in Texas is what it's called. Mm-hmm. That's terrible.
Well, they have to tread carefully because there's already, of course, the well-known one is the University of Texas at Austin.
Yeah.
So they had to go with the University of Austin at Texas.
Is it based in Austin for tax purposes, I'm assuming?
It's based in a law firm. Yes, right. For tax purposes.
It's based in Delaware, actually. It's based in a building in Delaware that's shared with 17 Lithuanian ice cream companies that are actually just for meth.
And so it's the faculty of this new university, which is being created by Barry Weiss, is basically everyone who's been canceled for... Yeah. It's like 3 or 4 things, but it's mainly transgender people who are anti-trans.
Yeah.
So I think it's going to become like an anti-trans university, or really what it is like a think tank, I think. And they're going to just dedicate themselves to being dickheads about trans rights.
Yeah, well, or to provide some, by institutionalizing it, they can provide some sense of legitimacy to it, even though it doesn't confer degrees. So it's
not yet, but they said they were working on being accredited.
Yeah.
Which, since it's Texas, is probably like, can you name 3 kinds of cow?
I mean, also, one of the guys there is Steven Pinker. And so, talk about Decline. He's the guy who we do this show in opposition against, because he's the one that's saying things are definitely getting better, which is also, which is something that can't be proven in any sort of logical way. How do you say that things are getting better? Like, you can only know that things are getting better if you can foresee a historical arc. I guess, maybe that's why I'm a postmodernist. I'm not a Marxist, because I don't see things inevitably leading towards a Marxist class structure. I don't see that happening. Well, maybe I do see that happening. How bad do you think it has to get before, like, the real violence starts happening?
Well, I can't answer that question. It's a crazy question. I got a lot of problems with the premise. There's real violence happening all the time, every day, because of capitalism and the structures.
No, the real violence.
What do you mean?
I'm talking about the real violence.
It is real.
Yeah.
Like gang violence that's not talked about on the left, but should be, is a product of capitalism. Police violence that is talked about on the left is a product of capitalism. Like. Yeah. The 3-year-old accidentally shooting himself with his father's gun that has happened like down the road this summer is basically a product of capitalism. Shouldn't be allowed to market guns. You shouldn't be able to have advertisements for guns. Guns should be like one kind, and you get it from the gun government store, because it's your quote unquote right. So you get to have one shitty ass 22.
Yeah. You don't believe in private gun enterprise?
No. That should be illegal.
Well, you're depressed. What if you were in a domestic abuse situation?
Yeah, well, guess what? You both have 22s, and you can duke it out that way. All right, you don't have to pump someone full of AK-47 bullets.
I disagree. I think that everyone should be able to buy any type of gun they want. The more ridiculous, the more of an expression of your individuality it is. Some people do drag, some people own guns, and I say that to every gun owner I meet. I say, what you're doing is just like drag. And they love me for that, I mean, they say I'm crossing bridges. I'm building bridges.
If they were smart enough to realize what you were doing, which is comparing gun rights to LGBT rights, they would agree with you, because they would be like, yes,
certain type of.
That's exactly what we've been saying.
Yeah, there are a lot of very funny, flamboyantly gay gun owners, which I think is a funny thing. I think it is a bit homoerotic, the worship of guns. It's not an original observation to say that guns are very phallic.
Man, they shoot something at you.
Yeah. And every man dreams of, shooting his cum so hard that it goes through a wall. They're killing somebody with their cum shot. That's why they call it a cum shot. Yeah. They don't call it a cum piece.
All the lingo is the same. And speaking of guns and their tragic effect on society, of course, suicide is a terrible thing. Don't do it. Call a hotline. Yeah. If you're thinking about doing it, don't do it, and call a hotline. But
unless, of course, you have to pay child support, in which case, have at it.
Or if you're so sad about your favorite forum online, you can't afford the $10 it takes to subscribe to your favorite forum online, call a hotline. Don't do it.
Call a hotline, Call the fashion SWAT. I don't know. I'm trying to remember old something awful bits, but I was only a lurker. We are, of course, referring to the untimely death of Richard Lowtax Kiyanka, the founder and, for a while, CEO, although I don't really know if you could call him that, of somethingawful.com, which, for the youngsters out there listening, who might not know what Something Awful is, was a website that I think it was started in the late 90s, right? It's that old.
I think
right?
1999.
Yeah, right at the end of the 90s. And its forums had an outsized effect on the distribution of internet comedy. The meme format of an image with impact font at the top and the bottom, that originated on Something Awful. And that crafted the first instance of the modern meme. The Oh Really Owl originated there. Slender Man originated there. Lots of incredible weirdos, like Schmorky also was there. Do you remember Schmorky?
I never went on Something Awful because I refused to pay $10. You had to pay $10 to gain access to not all the forums. There were some ones that were free, I think, but no, I did not go on.
No, you had to pay to get all the forums, but it was the thing about it. It was worth it for some people because it was this sense of trying to impress this group of incredible weirdos. There was this tenor to it where you knew you weren't going to make anything. See, with Twitter, there's always the idea that, if I tweet funny enough, then they'll give me a TV deal, you know? I'll be just like shit my dad says, or Rob Delaney, you know, I'll make it because of Twitter. But with Something Awful, there was never that same thing. It was just this purely honor-based system of trying to make each other laugh at weird shit. Which is why I think a lot of people have this very nostalgic element for it. Because even though it cost $10, what that brought you was this greater sense of authenticity of interacting with these people. Like it was that price you pay for the fact that this was not, in fact, cheapened by capitalism in the same way that our Twitter interactions are.
Yeah, I didn't have like the attention span at 13. Or, frankly, a way to put $10 inside a computer. I had no way of putting $10 inside a computer.
No, I wouldn't have been able to figure it out.
That was actually became like a techno-libertarian or whatever about like paying for stuff on the internet, but I also had no way of inserting money into a computer. Like if you didn't have a credit card back then, what am I going to do? Try to tell my dad I need to use his credit card on the computer? He'd be like, no fucking way. I don't know what that means. What, are you going to put it in the CD drive?
Something Awful. Is this that weird stuff I've been hearing about on 60 Minutes?
Right. No, my parents were already like aware that there had been porn viewed on the computer, so they were not gonna. If they saw like a credit card charge for Something Awful, they would take it literally and be like, "He's looking at something awful. It must be terrible. It must be pornography."
There was a lot of great. I think. Even though the music column was about hipsters, it wasn't really about it. It kind of was about hipsters in the very early days of hipsterdom. David Thorpe, who wrote the Your Band Sucks column, there are some genuinely great insights in that, and it's incredibly snarky, and it's supposed to be a parody of how bad music criticism is, but he does end up. He does end up eliciting some pretty funny truisms about the old genre of art that we all love. And I think that was a bigger influence on me than I would care to have it be. I mean, that's what everybody says about Something Awful, is that this is a terrible website that is a fundamental part of who I am, and I hate it for it, you know?
Yeah. That's weird. That's a weird thing.
Yeah.
I kind of feel sad for the people who dedicated so many years of their lives to exclusively being online on forums. Yeah. Like the culture now sucks. Like have you heard of the concept of the Eternal September?
No, what is the concept of the Eternal September? The
Eternal September was September 1993. And I've only read about this. Like I was 4 years old when this happened. And in September of 1993, that's when AOL started sending out discs to every house in America for internet access.
Yeah.
And on Usenet, every September before 1993, there would always be a new influx of users because college freshmen would come and new people would have access to the internet because that's where you would pretty much get internet for the first time in your life was at college. So every September, there's like a bunch of noobs. But in 1993, in September, AOL sent out millions of discs, and the internet started being flooded with new users. and that it was prophetically coined the term Eternal September, which is what's happening now, which is the internet is constantly filled with new, inexperienced users who don't know what's fake and what's real. And there's just no there's no on-ramp, you know? People need an on-ramp for learning how to...
we should teach internet literacy in schools. We should have textbooks with memes in them, you know.
You're writing out like on the blackboard, this is a shit post. Do not believe it.
No.
The vaccine works. It is a shit post. It's supposed to make you laugh. I don't know.
Some people do lack that. I mean, I definitely... I think especially if you go on the internet looking to get mad, which a lot of people do, that makes you more susceptible to falling for shit posts. I've stopped using Twitter to get mad, which has been much better for my mental health, because there were just at like some very dark moments of my depression or mental state. Sometimes you're just logging on to see something that outrages you, and you can comment on it. And it's just impotent, and it does nothing, and it only serves to make you madder. But you just sort of get hooked on that mild adrenaline rush where your heart's beating a little bit faster because you've come into conflict, which you don't experience in your regular life enough, like, or what real conflict, because you're not willing to go out there and actually challenge people to their face. And so that simulated version of it becomes addictive because we have lost something essential in our ability to withstand conflict. I don't know. Maybe that's I've noticed, that's probably just me projecting. That's a personal thing, because I notice in my own life, I am very conflict avoidant. And I think I would be less if I had more of a stake in anything permanent in my immediate surroundings. If but because everything is ephemeral, and because I'm just renting stuff all the time, and, I've not really invested any time in my community because I'm afraid of that conflict. I go on the internet where I can build something that, even though it's equally as ephemeral, seems to be more of substance than reality, because I am courageous enough in that anonymized mask,
I think,
to engage in the work of community building.
One area where you can do that kind of conflict thing is on stage, and I've seen you do that.
Yeah,
that's a place where you're not conflict avoidant, which is we spoke before the show about doing performances, and that's if you wanted to get involved in having a release valve, then performing on stage and doing something where you enter into conflict, as you have done many times in the past, I think.
Yeah.
Not like a serious thing, but like a confrontation.
That's easier too, because you're playing a character when you're on stage. You inhabit, and I think that's the same thing with online, is you're also inhabiting a character. And I think when you become internet literate, you learn that. You learn that you're a different person online, or you tend to accentuate the things about yourself that are not true in reality when you're a much more layered person. But some people just log on the internet and they're just themselves, which is crazy to me.
Yeah,
it's just, there's no curated aspect.
Shout out to Hugh Williams from Minnesota.
Hell yeah, Hugh.
Posts epic burgers.
Nice. Maybe if we were all more like Hugh, the internet would be a better place.
I don't know. I don't think he's that great.
No.
Sorry, Hugh, if you're listening. I love you, man.
Hugh's great.
He's not. He doesn't follow me. I just follow him.
But Rich Lowtax Kianka, in his own personal life, was sort of a bad man.
Yeah, I guess to round it out, he was a bad dude, sort of, I guess. I don't know. He was actually the source of all our abuse scenarios with the gun in the car and the
imagine
Dark Souls.
Imagine if you had to get away and Rich Lowtax Kianka blew a .8 and you couldn't go anywhere.
Yeah, that's what happened to 3 of his ex-wives.
Yeah. He was a domestic abuser. But one time, he wasn't even responsible really for why something awful was good. You know, most of the work was done by guys like Zach Parsons and other people that were much funnier than Lowtax. But he did build it in the same way that like Marcus Notch Person built Minecraft. But it wasn't really him that built Minecraft. It was a bunch of other people. But he was a huge asshole anyway, and alienated himself from the fan base of the thing he built. I love that character. To me, that's a fascinating character. The person that makes something that everybody loves and is a huge asshole.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's a lot of those in the tech community. Like the guy that made Half-Life and Steam.
Oh, is Gabe Newell a huge asshole?
Yeah, and then the guy that wrote the Linux kernel, Linus Torvalds, huge asshole. It's very.
But common. Is he a domestic abuser or anything like that?
I don't think. I mean, I have no idea. I would say probably not. But he would be verbally abusive to people in the work environment, and he had to got called out on it. Had to stop.
That's funny.
He'd be like, "You idiot,
like Joss Whedon!
You idiot!
Do you know what you're doing? I will fucking skull fuck you, you motherfucker!
You wrote the code wrong. This is for
How
idiots.
am I supposed to compile this? The only thing I can compile this into is a big load of bullshit."
Yeah. That's what he would be like, and they would be like, "You're not being sensitive to our needs."
So, that sounds less bad than Rich Lowtax Kiyanka.
I mean, yeah,
hit women.
Know, the behavior you exhibit in the workplace might be, it might be some evidence of how you are at home. I think they use that. I think that holds up in a court of law.
Exactly. Yeah, that's there's sort of like a romantic thing in that, where it's like, even though your life is marred by blight and horror and a world of hatred and bitterness of your own doing, something wonderful which enriched the lives of many came from you. And I think there's something sort of beautiful about that, the idea that some benevolent piece of the soul of Rich Kiyanka's soul is still lodged in that spirit, some inalienable part of him that, although he was, evil and terrible, there is an example of some good creative force. And, I would like to create something as good as something awful, and I won't, and many people won't. And, I think whatever he did, there is, a version. There is an alternate universe version that probably wasn't a terrible person. I don't know what I'm trying to say.
And that's the best thing we can say about that guy there.
Yeah.
An alternate universe version of you that doesn't suck.
Yeah, this is my eulogy. This is what I will say. That's what people will say at my eulogy.
I would love to come to your funeral and say that, and have people get so mad at me.
I hope I get roasted at my funeral. If people aren't roasting me at my funeral, I'm gonna be pissed. Ghost Me is gonna be super pissed. I'm gonna possess a bunch of people.
I mean, that would be roasted. A pretty epic thing to do, man. Would be to treat a funeral like a roast, but everyone else isn't in on it.
I can't believe I've been cut out of 7 wills.
Yeah.
I really keep fucking up.
That's all we have time for this week. This has been House of Decline. Thank you so much for listening. Go to our website. It's houseofdecline.com. You'll like it.
Bye-bye.